Hi, welcome to another edition of Social News Interviews. I'll be your host today, E-Rock Christopher, and today we're really excited to be able to introduce to everyone the CEO of Premier Wellness Centers. This gentleman is a top Florida chiropractor, and he's making a bold claim that today's modern chiropractic care is based on a large set of mistruths, misconceptions, and even potentially lies. And so we wanted to reach out to this individual and get some insights as to why he's making these bold, audacious claims. And so with that being said, we'd like to introduce to everybody on today's episode, Dr. Bill Jensen. Dr. Bill, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much for being here. So, Dr. Bill, would you mind sharing with our audience today why you're making some of these claims that modern-day chiropractic care, to some extent, is based on a lot of misconceptions, mistruths, and can we even go to the extent of saying lies?
Well, I mean, lies might be a little harsh. It's based on a lot of misconceptions and mistruths, and that's only as a result of technology and science. So, a lot of things evolve over time as we learn and unwrap different things within science and research. And so, I went to school and graduated back in 2001, and all my predecessors before that, we were all pretty much taught the same thing, which was when you have vertebral misalignments or misalignments within the spine, they can irritate nerves or compress nerves. And then as a result of that, wherever those nerves travel to, that can create dysfunction or disease. And that can occur, but it's probably about 5% of the time. So 95% of the time, what we've now found out is there's a lot of neurology in and around the spine. It's not just these nerve roots. There are neurons called mechanoreceptors, and they're found primarily in muscles, ligaments, discs, and other soft tissues, and within in and around the spine primarily. And what happens is when vertebrae in your spine get displaced from a number of different reasons, they trigger these mechanoreceptors to fire, and that induces a stress response within the brain. Now, a stress response, isn't what a lot of people assume when it comes from the spine. We think about, I have a lot of emotional stress going on in my life, a lot of deadlines, my kids and my job and everything else that's going on. But this stress response generated internally is a physical stress response. But the brain really can't tell the difference, between a stress response being generated internally or an emotional stress coming on externally because, your kids or the jobs or the bosses or things that are going on in our hectic lifestyles, nor can it tell the difference between a stress response from when we evolved and a tiger came out of the bushes and we had a choice to either fight or run, which is called the fight or flight response. But the reaction is always the same, and that induces the brain to trigger stress responses, which initially, is not a huge issue for us as far as our physical health, but long-term can create devastating effects to our health, every single organ, cell, and tissue within our body.
So, Dr. Bill, what you're saying is that modern-day chiropractor does work. It's just not necessarily for the reasons that a lot of people think. So, my next question to you is so why do chiropractors make you feel better?
Well, there's a lot of different reasons physically and even chemically behind that. So if you're feeling a lot of tension building up in your spine and you're having pain as a result of that due to muscle spasms or inflammation in the muscles or in the tissues or even potentially within nerve roots, the adjustments will free things up for you. So initially you'll feel looser as a result of that. But from a chemical standpoint, when you initially adjust somebody's spine, you'll get a rush of endorphins and enkephalins. And primarily, that's the body's natural pain reducers within the body. The other thing that happens as well is that there's a neurological effect on the brain, as we discussed before, and that can actually shut down the areas of the brain, which will dump cortisol and another compound called catecholamines, which are inflammatory markers within the body. So the inflammation will subside, cortisol will subside, and generally speaking, that makes the body systemically less inflamed and less tense. It also can reduce your heart rate, it reduces your respiratory rate, and it can give you a calm sense of well-being as well.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Dr. Bill. And so obviously you're keeping up with the best practices and the most recent scientific research. And with that being said, can you tell us a little bit more about Premier Wellness Centers? Can you tell us about your background as a chiropractor and maybe how long you've been practicing and your qualifications?
Well, I've been practicing now for about 16 years, and I went to school at Northwestern Health Sciences University up in Bloomington, Minnesota. Upon graduating from chiropractic college, I didn't move to Florida. There was absolutely no sense of me shoveling driveways and scraping windshields and plugging my car into my home so it would start in the morning anymore. So when I came down here, I started as an associate physician down in Fort Lauderdale. I worked there for around 8 years, and we practiced primarily just straight chiropractic. So patients would come in, we would evaluate them and treat them just as a chiropractor. What I found out, though, through practice over that 8-year period is that without a doubt, patients got amazing results with that. A lot of their conditions were benefited, and obviously they felt a lot better. But I knew that there was other things that would benefit patients and get them better results in less time if we combined them together. So in 2008, I formed the Premier Wellness Centers up in Port St. Lucie, Florida. I brought on an acupuncturist. I brought on a massage therapist. I brought on physical therapists and physical therapy assistants. And I've also recently brought on a registered dietitian. That way, when somebody comes into our practice with a particular problem or multiple problems, there really isn't any way that we can't physically help them from a conservative standpoint. So when patients come into our practice, they might not just get chiropractic, they might get physical therapy to stretch or strengthen areas that might be creating imbalances in their spine, which obviously will then adversely affect their nervous system. Or if there are situations where we can't help them from a chiropractic standpoint, we have other options for that patient in order to get them well.
Awesome. So, Dr. Bill, can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to become a chiropractor? And then you mentioned being located in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Why did you ultimately choose that location for Premier Wellness Centers?
Well, I was a patient, so I've been on that table. I've been in pain. I've had issues within my life at a very, very young age. To tell you my story, essentially, I was 9 years old. At that time, my family had lived in Montana, and I was an avid amateur wrestler. So one afternoon, of course, as it says, quit messing around with your friends, as your parents always tell you. I'm wrestling with one of my friends that was on my team at their home, and he had me in a headlock, and suddenly one of the bones in my neck got displaced. I felt extremely sharp pain, like a knife going in my neck. And then as I screamed out, he let go. And then when I tried to move, I couldn't move my arms, I couldn't move my legs, and I had literally no sensation from my neck down. Pretty terrifying experience, but at 9, I guess you don't really understand what paralysis is, so that certainly didn't enter my mind. But within a few moments, I started to feel tingling all over my body, and then I slowly could start to move my arms and hands, and I thought everything was okay. My neck was a little sore the next day, but at that stage, it was not a big issue for me. So I went about my business, and then I continued to go about play sports. But went back to school one day, and all of a sudden, I'm sitting in school, and all the lights in the room started to get really, really bright, and my eyes were getting sensitive, and I was squinting, and then I felt this really bad headache coming on behind my right eye, and I immediately had to go to the nurse, tried to call my parents, and they had to come get me from school. And then I spent the next 8 hours in my room at home with a bad headache, with a cold compress on my head, getting sick into a garbage can next to my bed. And my parents gave me Tylenol at that time. They did everything they could for me, but only time really resolved that migraine. Still, we didn't equate that necessarily to the injury from my neck. But then a few days later, I got another migraine. Same exact scenario happened again. And then a few days later, another migraine. So my parents took me to a chiropractor. And I didn't really understand why I went to a chiropractor, but I just understood at that age that, that was the doctor you were going to go to take a look at and see why you had headaches. And he found that I had displaced from that injury the third vertebrae in my neck out to the right. And then that was getting inflamed and actually creating the migraine headache for me. So he gave me a few adjustments. And, after probably 3 adjustments, as I remember, I never got a headache again, and the migraines were gone. And then I could continue to go to school and play sports and do all the things that I love doing most. And at 9 years old, a lot of kids, they ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? A firefighter, or a police officer, or whatever the case may be. And I always said, I want to be a chiropractor, because that was just the coolest thing in the world for me to be able to get those few adjustments, and my headaches were were gone. So that's what inspired me to be a chiropractor. As far as why I moved up to Port St. Lucie, I just, my parents and my family had moved here from Minnesota after I graduated, and they just thought it was a great opportunity for me to open a practice and do what I love doing most, which is just taking care of families.
So if you're just joining us here today, this is another edition of Social News Interviews, and we're here with top Florida chiropractor, Dr. Bill Jensen. And Dr. Bill Jensen is the CEO and founder of Premier Wellness Centers. So Dr. Bill, in today's socially conscious world, a lot of people want to understand and get to know why they're doing business with various organizations, various companies. Can you tell us a little bit more about Premier Wellness Centers' core business values or core company values?
Well, our motto right from the get-go, and I think you have to set the standard in any business to see what you stand for, is excellence is our standard. You know, that was our motto from day one when I actually created the corporation and formed the name. Now, within the company, you know, we really have a motto within the practice itself, is that we're a world-class team providing our patients world-class service in a world-class environment. So each and every time somebody walks into our practice, you know, those things have to be true every single time they walk out. And, you know, obviously every single day we get the best recommendations in the world. We get tons of referrals from other members within our practice. So, you know, those core values are certainly extremely important when it comes to healthcare. So,
Dr. Bill, I'm going to put you on the spot here. And, you know, a lot of people talk the talk, meaning that, you know, perhaps they're telling the world, you know, why they do things different or better. But can you actually think of some examples of how you've exemplified your company's values in, you know, in terms of how you've done that in the real world with maybe your patients?
Well, there's a lot of examples, you know, over the 16 years we've been doing things. And, you know, these were just values that were instilled into me by my parents. They were by my mentors, you know, because they all felt that that's just the way patients deserve to be treated and how businesses should be run. But, you know, essentially, for example, I had a patient come in. She was a young girl, about 21 years old, and she had been involved in a motorcycle accident actually out on her farm. We have a farm, believe it or not, we do have farmland in Florida, and it's about 30 miles west of us, essentially. But she gets into an accident. She comes in with back pain. Of course, we give her the red carpet service. We take care of her as best we can, you know, making sure that we give her individualized attention as we do with all our members. And then all of a sudden, suddenly one day she cancels her appointment. And we were kind of confused because she was very consistent and getting better, and she was excited, and we were really pleased she was getting great results. And we found out, unfortunately, that her boyfriend was involved in a horrific car accident and literally was rushed to the hospital in a coma on a ventilator. And we were like, oh my God, that's just so terrible. So, you know, we never met him before, but obviously she's very important to us. So, you know, I just thought it would be nice to say, all right, you know, if that family's devastated in the hospital and, you know, hanging by a string, essentially just making sure he's okay, we got to be there for them. So I sent them up, you know, a huge fruit basket and some balloons and a card, you know, just to let them know that, you know, they are in our thoughts and prayers. And essentially, you know, if there was anything that we could do whatsoever in order to help them out or be there for them or talk to them or give them massages or do anything whatsoever to ease their pain, you know, we were going to be there for them. So we sent them that, and then we saw a little post on our Facebook page, you know, that they were like so extremely grateful and like, you know, who really does that? That's just above and beyond, you know, the call of duty essentially. But I just think that, you know, we're in the relationship building business, and we're building relationships with individuals. So if we can do anything just to help them out even a little bit, you know, that's worth our time.
Wow, amazing stories, Dr. Bill. And so with that being said, how many patients would you say that you have helped or empowered or treated over your career? And in your opinion, how important is experience when it comes to choosing a good or the right chiropractor?
Well, you know, boy, a lot. I mean, in my practice alone, I know our file number as of yesterday was well over 11,000 patients we've taken care of over the last 8 years. Prior to that, when I practiced out in Fort Lauderdale, I worked at 2 different practices, but they were higher volume clinics as well. So I would have to believe it's over 20,000, maybe 25,000 patients or members that we've taken care of over the last 16 years. as far as experience is concerned, I never feel that experience is something that you extremely have to have, but at the same time, I mean, you can't replace it. I know, speaking personally from myself, one doctor was talking to me and said, when you go in and you treat somebody, do you always treat them exactly the same? And I said, well, no, because they're, everybody's different, obviously. So, and even if I'm treating you, for example, I might come in and adjust you or take care of you on Monday a particular way, but you might present to the office on Wednesday with a flare-up or something else going on, and I might have to tone that down a little bit and take a little more conservative approach with the adjustment. So, it's knowing when to treat somebody, when not to treat somebody. Most importantly, it's knowing how to treat them. Every spine is different. Every person is different. So you've got to have a lot of tools in your toolbox and a lot of experience taking care of many different types of patients, many different types of problems. And as those years pass by and as those patients accumulate underneath your belt, your innate wisdom and your feel for what's right with each patient really changes and differs day to day to day. So experience, you can't buy experience like that.
Amazing. So after having helped, literally, tens or thousands and thousands of people and patients, can you remember some specific instances where you really helped some of your patients overcome some extreme or maybe some very serious health challenges?
Yeah, there was one patient in particular, and this was early on in my career. I think I was probably 2 to 3 years out of school at that stage of the game, and this is when I was in Fort Lauderdale. But a lady presented to my practice, and she literally had asthma, severe asthma, so much to the extent that when she came in for her very first appointment after she completed her intake forms, I remember it took her quite a time to get from the front hospitality area back to the back of the office, which is where my office was at that practice, and had labored breathing. And she had been referred to me by another member of our office who initially didn't come to us for asthma, but had asthma as a secondary problem. And as we treated her, her asthma improved. So she referred in her friend, so she thought maybe by chance we could help her. So I evaluated her, we took x-rays of her, and we took a good thorough history of her, and so we began treatment. Now, probably within the first 2 weeks, to be honest with you, I didn't really know if our treatment was helping her or hurting her, because her asthma got worse. She'd be on the table, she'd have a garbage can next, she'd be coughing up all this stuff, her breathing was really, really bad. And so, not having that experience, as we just spoke about at that time, a very inexperienced chiropractor or somebody else may have quit and said, wow, this is getting worse. But we persisted because I just had a sense that things were really going to work out for her. And so over the next 2 weeks, things kind of stabilized. And then next thing you know, you can kind of see those little things physicians should look for. She's walking a little bit easier. She's getting up from the table. I can hear her voice is starting to change literally a little bit. You don't hear that wheezing going on with her. And I saw those little changes, but I still continue to treat. Well, probably about 6 to 8 weeks into our care, I walk into the office and she's sitting on my table and she's crying. So your initial thought when somebody's crying is something's wrong. I said, oh my God, is everything okay? And, did you have an asthma attack or is something else wrong? And she said, no, I didn't want to tell you, but over the last week, I haven't used my inhaler. I haven't taken any of the medications that I had that helped me kind of cough up all the stuff that developed in my lungs on a regular basis. And I just wanted to see if it was true or not, because I was doing so much better. And most importantly, my friend called me this morning to speak to me on the phone, and I haven't talked to her in a long time. And she asked for me on the phone. She didn't recognize my voice. And when I said it was me, she said, oh my God, you sound like you used to when we were going to school together, because she didn't develop asthma till later on, after she got out of school as a young adult. So, wow, those are super cool. Those are super cool stories, because at the end of the day, that's why we do our job, is to really make differences in people's lives like that.
Well, awesome. So thanks for sharing those wonderful stories and how you were able to really change and empower the future of this lady. And so I want to put you in a little bit of a hot seat here, Dr. Bill. And my next question is as a professional chiropractor, have you ever had a chiropractic patient that you weren't able to help?
Well, of course. Chiropractic can't help every single condition or problem underneath the sun. And there's a couple of main reasons behind that. Not every problem is a chiropractic problem, for one. Second of all, there are some instances where patients present to our office and they're looking for our assistance. But when we get down through the history, the exam, and more importantly, when we get our diagnostics run as far as x-rays potentially, you just see a spine it's just too far gone. It's not only can you not improve it, it might be even dangerous to treat it because it's too brittle or, too osteoporotic or too degenerative or too much arthritis or other things that are going on. Or even potentially in some instances, there's some type of anomaly the person was born with or the way that their body developed, which was abnormal compared to you and I. So, those instances are certainly happen all the time. And I'm, one of the first things I always let patients know is that, the goal on day one, when all is said and done, based upon the history, the exam, the diagnostics, and everything we run, is to find out whether or not they're a chiropractic patient or not. If they're not a chiropractic patient, I'll tell them. If they are a chiropractic patient, then I'll tell them that too, obviously, and then we look forward to trying to help them to the best of our ability. The other circumstance that happens, and because it's a two-way street, is patients want to have to get better and help themselves. So if they're just coming into the practice and we're doing all the work, but then they're going home after they spend, 30 to say 60 minutes in our practice getting all their therapies, and they're continuing to do things that they should not be doing and not following our recommendations, not doing their stretches, not doing their exercises, maybe not following our recommendations as far as water intake or postures and sitting and sleeping. Sometimes it doesn't matter how good your treatment is, they're just never going to get better as a result of that.
So if you're just joining us here, we're interviewing Dr. Bill Jensen, and Dr. Bill is the CEO and founder of Premier Wellness Centers located in Port St. Lucie, Florida. And in your professional opinion, Dr. Bill, how often do you recommend people get chiropractic treatment?
Well, it depends on, where they're at, what problems they have, and what their goals are. So, when patients come into our practice, again, what we typically say is like, what are your goals? So their goals might be, doc, I got back pain, I got neck pain, I have this problem, and my goal is just to get rid of that symptom and get back to life again. Okay, sounds good. So, if I have pain in my neck, it's going down my arm, and I can't sleep at night, and it's affecting my ability to work out or concentrate and work or spend time with my family, I'd come in every single day, twice a day in some instances, and make sure that got treated to get that out of there as fast as possible. Some people don't want to make that commitment or don't have the time or way to do that. I'm blessed and lucky to work in the practice I do. Of course, it's a little advantage, but at the same time, we'll recommend maybe, either daily or 4 times a week or 3 times a week. That's more aggressive care to get their symptoms under control. Now, if a person's looking to correct a problem, they got a 15-degree curve in their back and they want to straighten that up, or they want to rehabilitate their bodies so that not only does the problem feel better so it gets fixed, we'll treat 2 to 3 times a week for several weeks, dozens of visits potentially over weeks or months in order to get their problems fixed, rehabilitated, and stabilized. As far as supportive care, that's always the stigma, right? So patients go to a chiropractor and say, I heard once you go to a chiropractor, you always got to go to a chiropractor. Well, it's just a fact of the matter that we have to resist gravity every day. We have stresses in our lives. We are constantly moving every single day. I mean, you don't hear people saying, once you go to the dentist, you always got to go to the dentist. It's just that if you want to have clean teeth and healthy teeth and not have them fall out later in life, you're going to have to brush them every day. You're going to have to floss, and you're going to have to maybe get them cleaned, every 6 months as they recommend. And the same thing goes for chiropractic. If you want to maintain a healthy spine so it doesn't deteriorate over time, so you lessen your chances of having to have surgical procedures down the road or having pain or problems or creating that stress response we spoke about earlier, you got to keep things moving well in your spine. And so supportive care studies show everybody's different because everybody has a different amount of stress in their life and their body every day. But Studies show that every 2 to 4 weeks is a good treatment frequency for somebody to come in, get checked, treat the areas that need to be treated, keep them moving well, lined up well, and for that area, for those areas in the spine to stay healthy.
So, Dr. Bill, our team did some research, and based on our research, we seem to have found that back pain, or specifically lower back pain, is the number 2 reason that people seek medical treatment for any sort of professional care. And so, with that being said, how do chiropractors typically treat low back pain? How does Premier Wellness Centers treat their patients for concerns with low back pain? And do you have any sort of special methodology to treat and help people improve their lower back pain conditions?
Well, I think all too often when any type of physician takes a look at things, they just try to diagnose. Like, it's easy for us to diagnose, back pain or sciatica or things like that. It's also very easy for us to take a look at the area of the pain where it's at. So if you have pain at dead center at the bottom of the back, well, then it must be coming from that area. But the smart physician, the intuitive physician that has experience understands that back pain and the problem occurring in that area can be due to numerous different reasons. So you could have, tight hips. You could have a weak abdominal muscles. You could have tight lower back muscles. You could have what's called forward head posture. Somebody working at a desk or looking down on a consistent basis. If you put their head out in front of their shoulders, those muscles are going to tighten up from the top of the neck all the way down to the bottom of the back. And maybe that displaces or creates tension in that particular area. Maybe people have leg length differences. Sometimes the body's not perfect. One growth plate closes up prematurely in one leg. It grows maybe an inch longer in another leg. That happens all the time. I find this in people all the time, and then they go, wow, that's why I always had one pant leg longer than the other, and my mother had to hem it. These are people that, are 50, 60, 70 years old sometimes, right? Sometimes people have knee replacements, hip replacements, and that alters leg length. Some individuals sleep improperly. So feet imbalances. I mean, the number of different reasons why a problem can occur in any region in the body is so numerous. So that's why you always have to treat and look at the body as a whole. Because if you only look at the pain areas, in many instances, and only treat the areas with like just adjustments or stim and heat or ultrasound or exercise and things like that, and you don't find the true root of the problem, then your results may not work. The results may be temporary or very short-lived. So that's how we address all the issues, is diagnosing the true cause of the problem and then figuring out what the most appropriate treatment is going to be from there.
So is lower back pain one of the reasons why chiropractors do and evaluate the people's feet? And do you evaluate your patients' feet when they visit you at Premier Wellness Centers? Yes, we very much so. So again, do I evaluate every single person's foot that steps to the door? Not always, but one of the key things that we look at, even if a person comes in with neck pain, for example, and maybe we look at their posture and we see one shoulder higher than the other. Now, they may not have any lower back pain whatsoever, but, we look at that. We see their pelvis is on level. We see one leg is shorter than the other. We take a weight-bearing x-ray with equal weight on both feet. And when we look at their pelvis and the top of their legs, if we see differences, even more than 5 millimeters of difference, that's when that keys us, okay, something's going on below that area. So that's when we'll get them on our digital 3-dimensional foot scanner. And that thing's amazing. It does a laser scan of your feet, which is quite a bit more sophisticated than the Dr. Scholl stuff that you'll find at the stores, because it literally will make a 3-dimensional topographical view of their foot within the half a width of a hair. And that's like splitting hairs, I guess you could say. But at the end of the day, those subtle little differences make gigantic differences in somebody's outcomes. And I would honestly probably guesstimate that, 90% of people that have a lower back problem with them consistently, they have foot imbalances that are really generating those issues. So, Dr. Bill, let's face it, there's probably a lot of chiropractors in the Port St. Lucie area, and it can be a challenge for a potential patient to decide which chiropractor they might want to visit. And so with that being said, if a prospective patient was interested in being treated at Premier Wellness Centers, can you give our viewers an idea of what they might experience with their first visit as a patient?
Well, again, it's more like VIP and concierge care when you come into our practice. So, when you first walk into the practice, I would say for most people, compared to most other physicians' offices they've been to, you're going to be in awe of the beauty of our hospitality area. We have a 250-gallon saltwater aquarium, hardwood floors, fine art, really first-class, spa-like atmosphere. Our front desk is wide open. One of my biggest pet peeves when you go into a medical office, and there's nothing against them whatsoever, but, a lot of times you have that sliding glass window with the old sheet on the window that says, "Don't knock, we know you're here." That's not service, that's not hospitality. So ours is wide open. You're greeted by first name when you come in. Like, we know when you're coming, so we already know your name, so you're greeted by first name when you come in. The girls come out to the front, they give you your paperwork. It's not like we ask you to come up to the desk and grab your paperwork. We have coffee, we have different types of flavored teas, water, we have fruit going on up there so people can enjoy that. Our paperwork is mostly yes and no. It doesn't usually take that long. If people have questions, our staff comes out around, sits down next to them. We'll assist them with the paperwork or answer any questions that they have. Once they're done with that, we give every member as their first visit a nice tour of the practice, show them the rooms, tell them of the services that we're offering, answer any questions that they have at that time. Once we're done with that, then I get to come in and meet them. I just think it's very important to develop rapport with the patient to understand things, that I don't have an assistant coming in taking the history. It's me taking the history. But many times when you go to chiropractic offices or other medical offices, it's like an assistant taking the history. But, those questions are integral in some instances. And sometimes one question leads to another. And you can never assume that an assistant would know how to ask those certain questions or find the question behind the question. So 10, 12 minutes of a consult. Then we go through, we do a comprehensive exam. We run diagnostics based upon whatever's necessary to figure out their issues, whether that be foot scans, thermal imaging, surface EMGs, which analyze for muscle imbalances, x-rays as is necessary, of course. And then after we're done with that, we give them whatever appropriate therapy is done that day. And then we lead them up to the front. We give them a nice gift bag. I always make sure that I give them my cell phone number in case there's ever an emergency on a Sunday or anything else that happens. They always have the ability to reach me no matter what. And so we part with a fond farewell and we say goodbye till we see them on the next visit. So typical visit here at the Premier Wellness Centers.
Well, awesome, Dr. Bill. So it sounds like you're very comprehensive and thorough with your patients. And so with that being said, I'm sure our viewers might be wondering, what is the typical or usual chiropractor charge for their treatments? And then at Premier Wellness Centers, what would someone expect to possibly pay for chiropractic care at your facility?
Well, most of our practice is insurance-based. We do participate with most healthcare insurances, and most healthcare insurances, which is a question by a lot of people I run into, is, does my insurance or does chiropractic care get covered? And the answer, probably 99% of the time, is absolutely, it does get covered. There's a million different insurance plans out there. Even if somebody says Blue Cross, there's probably 50,000 different Blue Cross plans. So, we pride ourselves on never having any surprises in our practice. So that's why before we even schedule somebody to come in and sit down with me to have a consult and exam, if they do have insurance, we will typically pre-verify their insurance to see if we do participate and to see what their out-of-pocket expenses are going to look like. And then, if that's a go and a green light and people want to proceed forward, that's when we'll actually set up the appointment. Now, if a person has large deductibles or underinsured or no insurance whatsoever, we do have a medical discount program that we can enroll them into for a very small fee of only $49. And basically from there, we can basically have cap fee schedules that we can give to patients. We also have very affordable payment programs for everybody that comes into our practice. So, we never want finances to have to get into the way of somebody being able to receive the care that they need in order to be healthy so that they can do the things that they enjoy doing most in life. So that's always been my principle from day one. Give everybody the opportunity in order to get care and don't outprice them.
Well, it seems that recently modern chiropractic care and chiropractor treatments become very popular here. And with that being said, our assumption is that there's plenty of chiropractors operating and practicing in the Port St. Lucie, Florida area. And with that, why would a prospective patient want to choose you as their chiropractor or visit Premier Wellness Centers for chiropractic treatments over the competition? I mean, what would you say helps you to be one of the best, or if not the best, chiropractor in the Port St. Lucie area?
Well, I just think it's the principles that we believe in. We believe, that health is a choice. And patients have choices to make with their health. We feel that, again, as far as our core values, our team, everybody that we brought to the table here is world class. The service that you're going to get. I had one gentleman complain the other day. He's like, man, I don't even have time to sit down and enjoy my coffee because every single time I come here on time for my appointment, you guys are bringing me back in 30 seconds. I guess that's a good problem to have rather than sitting around for 15, 20, 30 minutes because things are getting backed up. And then the treatment, of course, again, and there's nothing wrong with this whatsoever, but, if I practiced at a straight chiropractic clinic, not many chiropractors have integrated multidisciplinary practices like we do, just because they don't want to have it, or they don't want the overhead of it, or they just don't think big like we think here. But at the end of the day, when you're coming in and you have multiple different treatment options for every single person that walks in, and you can take care of the muscular issues with the therapy or the massage, you can treat with acupuncture to improve somebody's ability to respond to care and enhance healing capacity. You can get the chiropractic adjustments in order to get things moving better and improve somebody on a neurological level. Those people are going to get much better results in less time and spend less money than if you're only having a one-tiered approach, and that's just chiropractic. So at the end of the day, I think if you come into our practices, you're going to see all the things that I'm telling you are certainly true, and obviously you're going to be able to experience that.
Interesting. So, Dr. Bill, our team discovered that apparently a lot of people are Googling the term Port St. Lucie chiropractor reviews online. And so, obviously, people are always looking for a trustworthy and reliable chiropractor. If a potential patient was looking at your business and looking at the reviews for Premier Wellness Centers, what would they expect to find? What would they see?
Man, we're blessed. We have a lot of reviews, and I'm humbled, actually, and obviously very pleased to see some of those reviews. I think the other day when I double-checked on our Google page, we had in around 70 Google reviews that were 5-star reviews. On our Facebook page, we have well over 100 5-star reviews on there. So I guess when I look at that, you can say that we're a 5-star practice, essentially. So yeah, everybody is, when you get great results and you get a good reputation, I guess people want to express that. And, I know personally when I am going to go to a new restaurant or go to a business or things like that, and I'm looking it up online, I'm definitely paying attention to the reviews. If somebody's a 2-star and has 5 reviews, that's not very good. But, if you've got almost 200 reviews 5-star, you must be doing something right, I guess.
So, Dr. Bill, obviously a lot of people might be seeking chiropractic treatment as the result of having been in an automobile accident or a car wreck. And so if somebody did have that experience and they were looking for an auto injury chiropractor in the Port St. Lucie, Florida area, what would you tell them about Premier Wellness Centers, and how could you help them?
Well, when you talk about injuries, there are different types of injuries, different mechanisms of injuries, but structurally speaking, an injury is injury. If you have a strained muscle as a result of a fall or an auto accident or lifting something home, playing a sport, you do have to address that problem appropriately. As I always try to emphasize when people come in after an accident or an injury, you only get one shot and one opportunity in a finite amount of time in order to make sure that injury heals properly. Because if it doesn't heal properly, you develop scar tissue, you develop adhesions, if you develop other issues, that's where chronic pain comes from, and you can never really get rid of it. And then that starts leading, of course, down to other pathways of medications and injections and potential surgeries in some real serious situations. So if you're in an auto accident or you've had an injury and you go just to a chiropractor, of course it's great to get adjustments to restore the motion and the movement into the spine and things like that. But if you don't rehabilitate the problem by stretching and specific therapies, like we do active release technique, we have Graston technique, which all of my therapists are certified to do. Those things help break up scar tissue, break up adhesions, and ensure the muscles heal properly. So if you're missing any of those components as a result of just going to a chiropractor or just going to the emergency room and they took the x-ray and told you everything looks okay, just follow up with your primary care doctor who might just give you anti-inflammatories. Absolutely, you're going to heal. Your body obviously has the ability to heal, no different than a cut on your finger. But if it doesn't heal properly, this unfortunately is why people get chronic issues later on in life. And so it's vital that people come in right away just to get checked, even if they don't have extreme amounts of pain going on, because small amounts of pain left unchecked over time or as they develop can certainly develop into more serious pain.
Well, interesting. So thank you for sharing that, Dr. Bill. And so with the fact that, you've been doing chiropractic care for as many years as you have, what other treatments and services do you offer at Premier Wellness Centers? Because obviously you're a wellness center, not just a chiropractic clinic. So what other services do you offer Port St. Lucie residents?
Well, of course, chiropractic, of course. We have physical therapy. We have massage therapy. Within massage therapy, we do deep tissue massage. We do therapeutic massage. We do Reiki. We do hot stone massages like you would get more in a spa atmosphere. We have a massage club that people really love, and they come in on a regular basis for that. We also have acupuncture. Like I said, we have a registered dietitian that we brought on as well. We have a comprehensive genetically based weight loss program, which is amazing. Our patients that are going on that are typically losing somewhere between 20 to 40 pounds within the first 6 weeks they're on the program. And if anybody says that sometimes when a person comes in, they have lower back pain because they're 60 pounds overweight, and you're just going to adjust that spine, and you're going to expect with all that excess weight on their lower back that they're going to get great results, you got to be kidding. So, that's why we have this integrated approach within our practice, because, again, any particular health problem can be as a result of being dehydrated or overweight or being deconditioned or having stress. So that's why you have to have a multi-tiered approach in order to get people the best outcomes with their care.
So if you're just joining us here today, we're here with Dr. Bill Jensen, the founder and CEO of Premier Wellness Centers based in Port St. Lucie, Florida. And evidently, in addition to chiropractic care, Dr. Bill, you're offering physical therapy services. And so what would you say if someone was looking for physical therapy services in Port St. Lucie that makes your physical therapy services better or unique and different than your competition?
Well, I've had a few different physical therapists over my 8 years of being here. And one of the main things that's always a really big surprise, because all three of these physical therapists, 4 of them actually, have worked in different physical therapy settings via a hospital or an outpatient practice or an orthopedic practice. And so, and I get the reason this is because there's no one-to-one patient to provider typically during the entire session. Even one PTA, as I remember saying, she worked at a physical therapy practice, and she would be there actually supervising 4 patients during the same half hour doing exercises or getting their therapy. So I just don't think that that's the best practice. But on the business side, on the economic side, yes, I can understand where one therapist supervising 4 people and getting paid for 4 people at the same time is financially beneficial for the business. But I don't want to cut corners like that, because again, reputation comes first and results come first for the patient. So all of our services on physical therapy, if you have a half-hour PT going on in our practice, that therapist is with you for the entire half hour. If you have an hour going on, they're with you the entire hour. You're never going to find yourself off in a corner doing exercises by yourself or on a mat or sitting on a bike without that therapist being side by side with you. Because, I mean, ultimately, don't you think that if you're off in the corner doing exercise by yourself, you don't need to be at a practice doing that unless you have such a severe problem that you have to be supervised to make sure you don't hurt yourself. And that's what patients tell me. They said, I went to other physical therapy practices and I was doing all these exercises by myself. I could have just done them by myself at home. We're very hands-on. Manual therapy is a big, big deal to our practice. Everything's hands-on. Everything's by touch. And I think that's just the way all physical therapy should be.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Dr. Bill. And obviously, it seems that massage therapy is more popular than ever. And for those residents that live in the Port St. Lucie area looking for massage therapy, what types of massage therapy do you offer, and how much does it cost to get massage therapy sessions at Premier Wellness Centers?
Well, again, we do a lot of different types of massages. As a healthcare practice, I guess I should say, initially when we came in, I was focusing on deep therapeutic sports type massages. Those ones by far are the most tender to do, but at the same time, we never go overboard and do such deep massage that it causes tissue damage or harm or bruising or pain. If you're creating those issues when you're massaging somebody, it actually is counterproductive because you're going to tighten up more as a result of that. But deep therapeutic massage, because we generally want to free up adhesions, we want to improve range of motion, we want to improve flexibility, we want to decrease tension. But for those individuals that want to come in and just get a good old-fashioned Swedish massage that feels nice and relaxing and reduces stress, we do that. We do reflexology. We do Reiki. We also do hot stone massages, which I'm still trying to get an appointment for because it's so popular at our practice now once we integrated that. A lot of salons and spas do that as well. And then as far as we do have a massage club membership. So I designed this a few years ago. And so what somebody does is they enroll into a massage club membership, no different than some of these massage places that exist in and around the country. And so basically for a very nominal fee of $49.99 a month, you can come in, you can get an hour-long massage once a month. You also can refer any friends or family members to use your massage during that month if you don't want them to. You can also, if you can't make it in for that hour-long massage that month, you can roll over a half hour to the following month as you get an hour and a half. You can buy additional massage for $25 for 30 minutes. Every time you refer somebody in and they actually join the massage club, you get a free hour. So one lady came into our practice and I looked and I was like, how does she have 7 hours worth of massage coming? And so she went back to her office and her coworkers told them all about it. 7 of her coworkers signed up for the massage club and she got 7 hours worth of free massage, and that's unlimited. So she could refer 100 people in and get 100 hours of massage, and I don't know anybody that wouldn't love to do that.
That's amazing, Dr. Bill. And so another service that you said you offer at Premier Wellness Centers is nutrition and weight loss services. Can you give any examples or do you have any stories that you can share about how you were able to help your patients to either lose weight or improve their health with those nutrition and weight loss services?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you've ever seen, that show, The Biggest Loser, you see how detrimental weight can be on somebody's health. I mean, their blood sugars get out of control, their cholesterol levels get out of control, heart disease affect their blood pressure goes up. You can start combining and looking at medications that somebody is on as a result of them being overweight, and they can get into double digits on some occasions. So as we spoke about before, on average, when we do a genetic analysis of people, it's pretty unique because a lot of weight loss systems are just a one-size-fits-all. They come in, they get on the scale, it makes the dietary recommendations, they may give them supplements, may give them prepackaged food, and then they just go with it. And so, ours is a little bit more scientific. We do actually a swab inside your cheek. We then analyze that swab, and that tells us a few different things. Number one, how does your body process food? So if I give you my example, I process carbohydrates extremely well. So if I went on this Atkins fad and I just was a high protein diet with no carb, that actually isn't the most efficient way for me to even lose weight, which is actually contradictory to what you would actually think as far as carbohydrates, because they're all the stigma. Some people process fats better, some people process proteins better. So it's not one size fits all. So you have to know what are the portions a person needs to eat every day for their body to function and lose weight optimally. What type of exercise is best? You know, a marathon runner doesn't respond well to sprint training like a sprinter would, or explosive movements. So everybody's different. So exercises aren't one size fits all. You may be sitting on a bike or a treadmill doing low intensity cardio for like 45 minutes to 60 minutes, but that might not be the best way for that person to burn fat and improve their metabolism. So we look at those factors. We look at other behavioral factors, which comes back on the DNA analysis. So when our patients get on the program, I had one gentleman, he lost over 60 pounds. He got off his blood pressure medication. He got off his insulin. And he also, his cholesterol dropped and he got off his statin drug. And this was co-managed and supervised by his primary care physician, which we always recommend people do to make sure it's safe. But that gentleman alone got 9 different medications he got off of within a 6-month period. And he's ecstatic about it.
So if you're just joining us today on this edition of Social News Interviews, we're here with Dr. Bill Jensen, a top Florida chiropractor based out of Port St. Lucie, Florida. And word has it that, Dr. Bill, you've recently won an award. Would you mind sharing with our audience a little bit more about what happened?
Do you want me to grab it?
I don't know. If you have it handy, sure. We'd love to have you share that and tell us a little bit about what it means.
All right. I don't know if you can see that.
Awesome. So can you read it for our audience, Dr. Bill?
Yeah, it's the Florida Public Relations Association Treasure Coast chapter. It says the Florida Public Relations Association recognizes Dr. Bill Jensen for Premier Wellness Centers as Communicator of the Year. And so that was on April 26th, just recently. And it was a beautiful banquet, and it came out, and yeah, I won Communicator of the Year, I guess. So I guess I'm a big deal now.
Well, congratulations on your accomplishment. And with that being said, it seems like you're very involved, and Premier Wellness Centers is very involved in the local community. As a matter of fact, our team of researchers discovered that you are actively helping to contribute to the community, and you even recently hosted a golf tournament. Can you share with our viewers why it's important for you to be able to support and help contribute to the local Port St. Lucie community?
Well, when you're in a position to be able to help and give back, I think that's everybody's responsibility. I was always taught that the more you give, the more you get, you know, but there is no, you know, strings attached with those things. So, you know, even from the inception of our company, when we would do events or dinners or, you know, ladies' night outs we have on a regular basis, or any other community outreach programs, we typically like to pick a different charity. It's not always the same one. So we've represented a lot of different charities and raised money for them. The Boys and Girls Club, Castle, which is another local charity for abused women and children, gives them a safe place to go and get out of that bad environment. Yeah, there's just so many. And then we did a golf tournament that basically was the first annual Premier Wellness Centers golf tournament. We had that last year, and what we did is that there were Community Angels was the name of the charity, actually. And so what Community Angels does is they provide mammograms for women that are underinsured or can't afford it in some of the impoverished areas in our local areas. So we decided that was going to be the one that we were going to raise the money for. And so we came together with another foundation called the Roseanne Gregory Foundation, and we ended up raising enough money after that golf tournament that I believe 79 women were able to go get mammograms that otherwise would not have been able to. So how many of those women may, or, you know, I don't know, have found maybe lumps or potential breast cancer and maybe caught it early and they're saved lives? I don't know if that happened or what those numbers look like. But I do know certainly that without that happening, they would not have been able to get those mammograms done. So, you know, just a couple instances again where, you know, if we're in a position where we can help people and make a difference, like we did with that, young girl and her boyfriend in the coma at the hospital or whatever, we're here to do it, and that's something that we should do.
Well, congratulations, Dr. Bill, on giving back to the Port St. Lucie community, supporting people in the various charities in your local area. Let's say, as an example, someone wants to learn more about Premier Wellness Centers, but maybe they're not ready to necessarily come in for a visit. Maybe they want to discover and learn more about, better health and care and things of that nature. Do you offer any kind of like programs or information that people can learn more about, becoming healthy and how that's helping people?
Well, there's a few different avenues, actually, and one of them actually is just new that we decided we're going to start to do. But, one of the easiest ways, if you just go to our website at premierwellnesscenters.com, there's a lot of information and videos about different problems we treat. There's education. We're actually going to be putting some different videos on some different exercises and stretches people can do for particular types of problems that they have, nutritional information, other videos and stuff about some of the patients' lives that we've touched, and they'll tell you their story and how we help them. Of course, one of the other ways is, we're going to start doing in-house workshops on a monthly basis. Every single month, people can come into our practice. We're going to have some light refreshments for them and everything. It'll be after we close. We'll spend time, going through a different problem, how we treat that problem, and how people can help themselves with that problem, and then sit down and have question and answer and discuss any questions those people have about those particular problems. And lastly, we always do an event on a monthly basis called Dinner with the Doc. So it's always open to the public. You just have to call the office basically and find out, where it's going to be, what the date and time is going to be. It's free. We have people come out. We typically are at the PGA Golf Club, which is right next to my practice up here in Port St. Lucie. We have a private room rented out. We have 60 to 80 seats available every month, and we'll be lecturing about health and wellness and neurology in the spine and answering questions during those time frames. And actually, that's why I won Communicator of the Year, because they thought that was a really innovative way that we could educate the public about health, where health comes from, and how people can get help, getting healthier for them and their families. So that's free. It's usually about 45 minutes, and it's a good way that we can meet people on a neutral ground without them coming into the practice, and they can hear about everything that we do and what we're about.
Fantastic. So, Dr. Bill, it seems that a lot of Port St. Lucie chiropractors work limited hours or have different hours that they're open in terms of availability. What are the office hours that you offer to your chiropractic and patients in general at Premier Wellness Centers? As an example, are you a chiropractic center or a chiropractic clinic that's open even on Saturdays?
Yeah, we're open on Saturdays. Understand that, people have lives, and a lot of times, working 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and then being able to, spend time with their families or take their kids to events or other obligations that they may have themselves as far as school and life. Sometimes it's just really hard to get to a clinic during the week, and they don't want to take time off work or miss school or do other things. So that's why we do offer hours on Saturdays from 9 to 12. And my other philosophy just within business is, why are you in the business? Are you in the business for yourself, or are you in the business for others? And we're in the business for others. So we have something called patient-centric thinking. And so what are the best hours and most convenient hours for a patient? So typical businesses and practices are open 9 to 5, maybe 9 to 5:30 or 6. We're open 9 to 7. And that's basically Monday through Friday, 9 to 7 p.m. We do take, obviously, a small lunch break during the day to get some stuff done and be able to take care of ourselves as well. But then Saturday hours as well from 9 to 12. So I just feel that that's the best practice in order to afford people the time to be able to get in and get healthy, because obviously we understand that people run and have very, very busy lives out there.
Tremendous. Well, Dr. Bill, thank you so much for being here with us today. And before we wrap up today's edition of Social News Interviews, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I just want to let everybody know if they ever want to come in and have a consult, we're more than happy to do that for you, like a second opinion or anything else. And one of the deals that we're running right now is to come in. You can get a history. You can get a chiropractic, orthopedic, physical, neurological evaluation, x-rays as is necessary. We can get some other diagnostic tests if they're appropriate, thermal imaging, look for inflammation areas within the spine, surface EMGs, which will pick up electrical signals from the muscles and look for muscle imbalances. And then we do another test, which is vital, as all the studies are now showing, to look at longevity and health, called heart rate variability, which is a cardiology test. We really literally analyze how well people are getting through the day, how efficient are they getting it through the day, and how well do they adapt to stress. We give them therapy on that first visit, and then we set up a follow-up visit for them and their loved one or spouse, or as we call it, their partner in health, to come back in, review the results of all their tests, sit down with them, and systematically put together a game plan that works with them, their time, their finances, and everything else, and give them a 1-hour massage, full body, with one of our excellent, well-trained massage therapists, and that is $99. So essentially, you can come in, and that's why we're saying we're giving away massages for free, because the exam, the diagnostics, and all the results are $99, and they're actually going to get a free 1-hour massage with that as well.
Well, wow, Dr. Bill, that's amazing. So basically what you're saying is any Port St. Lucie resident who's interested in getting chiropractic treatment can come visit your office and basically upon their first visit get a free massage. Well, that's just very generous of you.
You won't find that anywhere else. I can promise you that.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you today again for being here, Dr. Bill.
Thank you for having me.
And that's today's episode of Social News Interviews. I want to thank you for attending and watching our new episode with Dr. Bill Jensen, and we look forward to seeing you on our next episode. We'll see you at the next Social News Interview. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.